You know, one of the biggest questions that I get on a regular basis is where did my wife actually get the alcohol? And this is obviously a very baffling question from someone looking from the outside. And if this is the first time seeing me, well, I was married for 25 years, and my wife unfortunately succumbed to alcohol use disorder almost 5 years ago. And I tell stories about my experience with her, certainly the last 7 or 8 years, which were the worst years. Where did she get the alcohol? Any way, anyhow they can, and they will get as creative and as inventive as the human mind is capable of becoming. They will steal it, rob it, connive into it any way they can. You have to realize the alcohol has become their solution to their emotional issues. It is the band aid, it is what keeps them sane in their mind for a lot of people. And it's important to realize that the motivation behind it becomes the single most important thing that they need, certainly in the later stages. Their life and their day will center around getting alcohol, consuming alcohol, and essentially recovering from alcohol and rinsing and repeating those steps. The getting, that's something that's always bewildered me, and I'll continue further. And again, none of this is to disparage my wife Amanda or alcoholics in general. These are just facts of things that you experience when you have an alcoholic in the family. I mean, she would order credit cards. She had her own credit. I mean, she had her own money to some degree. Eventually, I had to separate the bank accounts and take her away from ATM cards, but she would order new ones. I mean, there was no way around it. She had access to money, and you can't stop somebody. I mean, they're your spouse. In some ways, you can't stop them for getting their own credit cards, especially if they order them in their home. That's where a lot of her funds came from. Near the end of her life, she also pillaged my son's college fund. He had like $3,000 in an account that I'd set aside for his books and for food and stuff during his first semester. So we would have some money. He called me up, in the middle of a semester and said, "Dad, all the money's gone from my account. Do you know what happened to it?" And I looked at the account, and it was full of Ubers, CVS receipts, and grocery store receipts. All of it was alcohol, Uber drivers, and fast food, and it was all gone. And it was just unbelievable. I mean, and you have to realize it becomes a very self-centered type of situation. Certainly in the later stages. I'm talking about the later stage of the disease as well. Other things that she would do, like when she had an operation, she had her knees replaced. She had her last knee surgery approximately 5 months before she passed away. She was bedridden for a good month afterwards. I mean, she was not particularly mobile. And she had a friend who brought alcohol over. She'd give the friend money, and the friend would bring alcohol over. I mean, there's any way, anyhow. And then, of course, the worst one of all, and I really think this was the bane of my existence, was DoorDash. Okay, I came home one day, really, I think it was maybe the November or December before she passed away, and I drove into the driveway, and there was a car in the driveway. I'm like, who the heck is this? And there's somebody delivering 2 cases of beer to our front door. And I'll never forget, I was just like, I just could not believe of all the precautions we tried to put in place to just get alcohol away from her, which was eventually, really, you realize it's a futile exercise anyways. But I went to the front door, and I actually screamed at the DoorDash lady. I go, "Do you realize she's an alcoholic? Why are you delivering this?" She goes, "Well, I'm just doing my job." I go, "Well, maybe get another fucking job." I was just beyond frustrated. And Amanda walked back in the house, and I remember I picked up one of the cases, and I walked into the kitchen, and they were glass, and I took the whole case and just smashed them on the floor. It was the maddest I ever got. And you have to realize, as a family member, you really don't even want to get to that point, because you shouldn't allow yourself to get to that point. But I just was. It was a long day. I came home from work, and this is what I came home to. I smashed them all over the floor, had piles of broken glass and beer all over the kitchen, which I ended up having to clean up anyways. But I mean, this is how they get it, anyway, anyhow, regardless of who gets in the way. And of course, near the end, I mean, my wife wasn't able to drive because I had to take the battery out of her truck simply because it was unregistered, uninsured. She had a revoked license. She had had 4 DUIs, and she wasn't allowed to drive anyways. And she would just get in the car and drive. And I was also paying almost $200 a month for a breathalyzer in a car that she wasn't even allowed to drive, but it was court ordered. So I mean, these are all things that you have to go through as a family member. And people ask me, "Well, why did you stay with her? Why did you stay with her?" Well, that's another story entirely. But we're talking about how they get it, and what I'm getting at is they will get it anyway, anyhow, regardless of how it affects themselves, their family. That's that's not even really a concern when your singleness of purpose is the disease and to continue getting the alcohol. And then really one of the most crazy things that she used to do, because she was on crutches really the last 4 or 5 years of her life because she was in the middle of knee surgeries and she had hip issues. And she used to wait till I went to bed, call an Uber. She would, with her crutches, take her crutches down the end of the street so no one would hear. My son's bedroom was in the front of the house. Take an Uber, 1 o'clock in the morning, go to a CVS store, get her liquor for the day, put the whatever she bought, the beer, wine, and hide it in the bushes near the front of the house. Go back to bed, and then when I went to work, she'd go out and bring it out of the bushes. We figured this out because my son came home one day and saw her bringing the alcohol from the bushes on her crutches. I mean, just the motivation behind it was unbelievable. But these are all stories that I tell because I know they resonate with other families and other alcoholics that go through this. That's really the point, is to understand that you're not alone. And if this is going on, it's time to take action. Create the boundaries, and maybe you need to reevaluate the relationship. And again, these stories and so much more are in her memoir. It's called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. It was a story of her 25-year decline with alcoholism. Really, the last 7 or 8 years is a big part of the book. And again, I go live Monday through Friday, right around 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern. We have the Facebook group. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Link is in the link tree, and also when you're ready to work with me one-on-one, set up a breakthrough call. The call is free. The course is definitely not. But I'm looking for people who want to change their lives and the lives of their family. And again, thanks so much for listening.